The Appellant's Tale, as told to David Hurd. You tell me your story on Monday, March 30th, 2015, in an office block by a crossing on the road out of Crawley. As you speak, I take notes, asking you to pause periodically. You talk slowly, and in case I miss something, I make a recording on my phone. When you are done and the room is quiet, I ask you if you wanted to tell your own tale. You said no. In the interest of security, you wish to remain anonymous. That's how it is. You are 63. When you told me you were 63, I said you don't look it. At this point in the conversation, the phone records laughter. You came to this country in 1984 to join the BBC World Service. Margaret Thatcher's second term, approximately half a lifetime, more than long enough to get acquainted. You tell me about events, children, the usual sequence of addresses. We touch base at Lewisham in the early 90s. Water under the bridge, which is how it goes. We have 2 hours. The room is fit for purpose. Your voice is calm and carries story. As you speak, I stop hearing traffic. Patiently you tell it, step by step. You live in Kano State. You work in radio and television. You have a voice, I realise, for broadcast, that we may understand what you say, plainly. You joined the World Service, for which you were interviewed in Nigeria, and even in Nigeria, you had to receive security clearance before you arrived in the UK. There and then. This was 1984. You were given features that you translated into one of your languages, Hausa. When you were in Kano, you first heard news of where you lived from the BBC. You say this in passing, that the BBC broadcasts stories of the world to the people of the world, that people get the truth from the World Service. That's how it is. What you were telling me is a story of empire. You mention in passing that you were at liberty to decide which stories to translate. Part of the movement is centrifugal. Sometimes you were broadcast comedy, and you tell me in villages in Nigeria, people listened on transistors. Translation is sensitive. In a news story, mistranslation can result in conflict. You picked up your work permit at a British consulate in Kano, and then you came and worked for the BBC. And that work stopped the way work stops, and in Nigeria there were coups. And so you picked up a trade as a plumber, and each month you paid tax and national insurance. This is a song of occupations, and so the bass note is work. And each month you worked, you made a contribution, until all the working made half a lifetime. Until one day, in Croydon, the state showed up and you were required to prove it. Prove it. There and then. What you tell me is there and then. You tell me on the 12th of August 2012, the UK Border Agency showed up at your door. It was 6 a.m. And what they said is they were acting on a tip-off, and you weren't dressed, and you shared the flat. And when you let them in, it is you they started to question. You. What tip-off? You are now the appellant. What follows is an appellant's sequence of events. You give them your name and your date of birth and show them evidence of national insurance contributions and tax, and they call the Home Office, and the Home Office confirms you and says you have no criminal record. Anyway, they arrest you. You say it's because they ask you what you do. This is a song of occupations. You tell them before you were a plumber, you were a journalist. When you tell them this, the senior UKBA officer jumps. There were 4 of them in your room, trawling through your things. he tells you that journalists are giving them headaches. So they arrest you there and then, even though a person can be given a warning. It's 6 a.m. Something has fallen. Without warning, they just grabbed you in. They take you in handcuffs to Croydon police station. You are wearing jeans and a t-shirt. They don't allow you to take any evidence. It is a crucial detail. The evidence is your contribution, the song of your occupations told in national insurance and tax, which you have kept and they don't let you take. So they close the door behind you. You don't know what that means yet. I forget to ask you how heavy the handcuffs were. You learn afterwards that they ransacked your room. They say in 28 years you must have left the country. You say you haven't, because you haven't. Only now that they've detained you, you have to prove it. Prove it. They say you need a solicitor, which you haven't got, and they don't take you to Croydon police station. They take you to Electric House. And they leave you there for 12 hours in a room with no telephone reception. You, the appellant. Only you don't exactly realise yet you are the appellant, that the doors are closing, that it doesn't matter how much water is under the bridge, nor that your daughter was born in Britain, that you were invited here and are entitled to stay, that you have made your contributions, that you have been public and your situation is all in order, that for half a lifetime this is the place you have made your way. They take you to Brook House. It was then that you realised. What you realised was you were in a detention centre for illegal immigrants. Like a hammer. You realised it like a hammer. I asked if you knew about detention centres before. You said no. I asked if you knew where Brook House was. No. So now you don't know what is happening and you don't know where you have come. You are taken upstairs and you can see the airport and you can see the planes. And you start asking questions and people tell you this is what they do. When they process you and you don't have a solicitor, that's it. They bring you here and then they put you on a plane. The rhyme is flat, plane, plane. From Brook House, you can see the whole runway. And in process time, this is 15 hours later, except that you have been here nearly 30 years. And now you are standing watching the charters all the way from taxi to take off. You, the appellant. They say, just sign here. You said you weren't signing anything. You were a journalist once. You said you wanted to read it first. What it said was, you gave your consent to be deported. Sign. No. You tell me the documents have a number of pages, one after the other. So if you sign one, you sign them all. Carbon copies. If you sign it, it goes through to the next one. Confirmation for anybody who needs it that you wish to be deported. That's the moment you resolve not to trust the UKBA. There would be other moments. A week later, a man from the Home Office came. He showed you your file. Look, he said, this is what we have about you. According to our records, you have been here so many years, you are qualified for leave to remain. So I want to know, said the Home Office, what you want to do. Because this is a detention centre for removal. You have to tell me what you want to do. You had enough? You want to leave the country? Or you want to stay? You tell him. So he writes, stay. I am taken by the meanings, verb, to remain in the same place, to live somewhere temporarily, as visitor or a guest, except in Scottish or South African, where it means live permanently. Also to stop or delay or suspend or postpone, as in a stay of execution, as in a check on judicial proceedings, to secure or steady, as in the supporting wire or cable on an aircraft, from the Latin to stand, from the German be firm. I write stay as you say stay, and this should be the end of the story. Only the ambiguities run deep, and the language wants to have it both ways. Good, he says, stay. And then he showed you the document, and then he says, do you have any evidence of what you have been doing all these years? Prove it. This is where the surreal becomes deeply disturbing. The administrative surreal in only ways Kafka could tell. The way a person who starts the day, one thing becomes something completely other. To say in Kafka's way, the most profound metamorphosis. You, the appellant. You tell him you have a letter from the Inland Revenue saying you have been contributing tax and national insurance for over 25 years. He says, where's this letter? You say, it's in my house. He says, you need to bring this letter to us. You say, if you let me go there with a police escort, I can bring it back. Only this man is from the Home Office, and the people holding you are UKBA. And in their opinion, you must have travelled, and since you can't prove otherwise, you have to be detained. The contortion runs deep. Chaucer would have known what to do with it. One of those impossibly twisted double plots, only the contortion is a knot. And you are the person held within it. And all the while outside time is passing, and your landlord takes the decision you are not coming back. So he bags up your things, everything, including the letters, since he has a room to let, and this is a familiar tale. And he puts all the documents in a black bag, and he puts the black bag outside for collection. Which is where we leave it. Only at this moment, you don't know it is there, and you can't be released until such time as you have it. Caught. And so it goes on indefinitely. While you in Brook House, 3 men attempted suicide. You never saw that before. In Brook House, you saw it 3 times. People who have never been in detention, they think if you are in detention, you must have committed a crime. People start running. Before long, you are dead completely. One morning, they came again at 6 a.m. For the sake of argument, let's call it the operational method. They just open your door and they tell you you are leaving. They tell you you are going to a removal cell. They take you to a detention centre near Heathrow. You remember the name, Colnbrook. Brook meaning stream. Brook meaning tolerate, allow. They tell you people from the embassy are coming and they will confirm who you are. And once your identity is established, then you will be deported. Except that you know the women. We wonder about the chances. They tell you the border agency have asked them for a travel document, but you say no, you have a case because you're applying for bail. And since they know you, they believe you, and so they refuse the UKBA. They say they cannot issue removal documents because you have a case outstanding. Pending. They send you back. This is the song of the appellant. And because it is the song of the appellant, it is also a history of bail, the ancient privilege known to Chaucer so that his pilgrims might walk safe, whereby many of the king's subjects hereafter may be long detained in such cases to their great charge and vexation. To their great vexation. This is the appellant story. You appear before the bail tribunal via video link. You are visibly detained. The UKBA speak to the judge directly. They tell the judge they have issued removal directions against you. They haven't. That was a lie. You witness numerous lies. It matters you are not in the courtroom. The judge accepts what the UKBA says. He tells you you are going to be removed because nobody knows who you are. You have been in detention 8 weeks and you haven't provided evidence. You, the appellant. Nobody has actually charged you with anything. Pending deportation, you are refused bail. This is a song of mistrust, and now you know you can't believe anyone. Sometimes you say politely, mental issues arise. Once more, they come at 6 a.m. This is not something you get used to, security officers banging at your metal door. This time, they take you to Portsmouth. You pause to reflect. Make no mistake, you tell me, these movements are deliberate. Because now you have lost your solicitor, because he can't visit you from London. This is the logic. And now you are in a prison, and all the restrictions are worse. You can't use your phone except when the door is unlocked, and then you have to walk to the end of the garden for a signal. And it is almost impossible to call a representative because it is only in this window that you can use your phone. Everything is deliberate. You know what they did. You say it patiently, like even now, you wish you didn't have to believe it. In that moment of being traumatised, not knowing where you are or what you are doing, with no solicitor and no window when you can realistically call, they faxed you forms to apply for leave to remain that you must complete because they give you a deadline. Except the forms they send are the kind of forms you can only use if you're applying from abroad. Everything deliberate. What they want to prove is that you have left the country. Now you have signed a form that tells the court you have left, that places you somewhere else. Your next solicitor will ask you why you signed. You tell him you couldn't call. Everything is happening all at once. He tells you this is a big mess. Sign. You sign. I had to do this. Temporarily, the transformation is complete. You pause as it dawns again, the magnitude of the situation. You, the appellant, have signed your status away. Pause. Pause. There are no accidents. And all the degradations you are describing are taking place in real time. Indefinitely. No sign of resolution. Out with the evidence outside a house in Croydon in a plastic bag which even now you don't know exists. Kafka, not Chaucer. You are returned to Gatwick and you are faxing for a new solicitor. Faxing because you have no credit on your phone, which is what it comes down to. No credit. Not till Gatwick Detainees Welfare Group find you. And when you apply again for bail, the UKBA requests anonymity. I ask what anonymity means. You say the way it looks, you are a nobody. It means you have no story. If you are given anonymity, the UKBA can say you have not stayed here for so long. And nobody could establish whether you have been here. Where are your friends? Where are your connections? You are anonymous. Nobody knows you. That's what you thought it was. Form IAFT2. Anonymity, when granted, will result in the tribunal removing your name from all published documents. No story, you tell me. The judge refuses the UKBA. They tell him they have issued removal directions against you. That was a lie. They hadn't. The judge believed them. Think about it, you say. You could be in detention forever. Months. Years. And all the time, this process. Mistrust is part of the process. What you depart from is not the way. Until finally it is plain you cannot be deported. So after 6 months, you receive a letter granting temporary admission. Not bail, I ask. No, temporary admission. And therefore, no assistance. Only an instruction to go to your surety's address. Only they hadn't checked, and your surety has 4 children, and his house is small, and it's just not possible for you to stay. So the woman at Brooke House calls your caseworker, and you could hear she was angry. And you could recall it was January, and in the sky there was snow. And now the woman was in tears because your caseworker told her you should just be taken out and left in Croydon. And if you didn't go to your surety's house, they would pick you up again. Like a circle. And she said, no, he's not going anywhere. He is an old man. I will not be party to that. Eventually, they relent. And 2 weeks later, they tell you to go to your old address. 6 St. Martin's Hill, Thornton Heath. You remember the date. January 10th, 2013. Dates matter. You came here in 1984. You worked for 28 years, and all the while you were working, you paid national insurance and tax. This is a song of occupations. First, you were a journalist, and then you were a plumber, until one morning in Croydon, the state showed up. And then you were released. And all that time, nobody had charged you with anything, and the people detaining you had repeatedly told lies to the court. And the day it happened, you headed home, and you rang the landlord to tell him, and he was sympathetic, but he told you, you don't have a place anymore. All your things are gone. We threw them away because they thought you'd never come back. The only stuff you have left is rubbish. I don't know if that bag is still there. David, I went to the garden. I opened the bags and I found all those documents of national insurance and tax. The first day I arrived, I saw it. The second day, I went to my solicitor, and the solicitor was shocked in absolute disbelief because they had written letters to the Inland Revenue for months and they had refused to comply. This is a miracle, my solicitor said. Where did you find them? And so you told him. You said it was in the garden. You have lost your TV, your clothes, your everything. Gone. But these letters were in bags in the garden. Nobody present had thought to throw them away. Which should be the end of the story. Only this is a song of the appellant. The terms of your temporary admission are you can't work and you have to sleep at your landlord's address. So every day is a negotiation, and though you had the letters now and you could prove it, yours is an appellant story and everything is in suspense. Pending. Out with. You tell me you were begging, desperate, until Lauren from your welfare group said you should contact your MP. Your MP wrote to the Home Office, and after he wrote, the Home Office replied within 5 days. Dear Mr. North, we apologise for the delay. Silence. You let that hang. The recording is running. I asked when finally you got leave to remain. 16th of July 2014. 5 days before your 63rd birthday. 11 months after you were first detained. You say that thoughts come back. You used to wake up at 6 a.m, panicking and sweating because they came for you 3 times, banging on the door. Sometimes they put you in a room of 2. And then in the morning, you wake up to find your roommate had been deported. Think about it. One day, the bus actually came. There were 13 of you. You were the last, and they were checking everybody in. Right, they asked. How do you feel now you were going to be deported? That was when you were passing. Then the Home Office stepped in. That one is not going anywhere. You collapsed. It was too much. You saw this massive bus and everybody ahead of you was being checked in. You don't know if they knew you weren't going anywhere. Anyway, they put you through that hell. You pause. The traffic is quiet. I ask if there's anything else you'd like to add. No, you say calm. That's my story.